Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from group 7 and let us introduce ourselves first. I am Zayanti Uswatun.
My name is Syadza Khalish Insani.
My name is Aisyah Alya Raihana.
And my name is Rizki Abror.
And welcome to our group presentation. In today's videos, we are going to share the findings from a 2023 research article published in the Journal of Phonetics. The study is all about how people who speak tones language like Mandarin and Vietnam perceive tones in another tone language, which is in this case is Thai. The big question in this research asked was how do native tone language speakers understand and interpret the tones of a different language, and more importantly, how does their native phonological system and phonetic sensitivity influence this process? To answer this the researchers focus on two major factors: phonological influence, which comes from the tone categories in someone's native language, and phonetic influence, which deals with detailed sound cues like pitch and durations. They also test how memory load and stimulus variability, like different talkers and vowel contexts, might change how people perceive this tone. And next material will be presented by my friend Sajid.
Okay, now let's talk about how the researchers designed their study. There were two key listening tasks. First, the categorization task. Here, participants listened to Thai tones and had to match them to the tones in their native language. Second, the discrimination task. Participants heard two Thai tones one after the other and had to decide whether they were the same or different. The theory behind this study is called the pers- Perceptual Assimilation Model, or PAM for short. PAM explains how people naturally fit foreign sounds into their existing native sounds categories, depending on the type of assimilation. The ability to tell sounds apart or discriminate them can either be strong or weak. PAM includes four main assimilation types. The first is two category. Each foreign tones match a different native tone. This leads to high discrimination. The second is single category. Both foreign tones are heard as the same native tone. This leads to pure discrimination. The third is category goodness. Both are perceived as the same native tone, but one fits better than the other, moderate discrimination. And the last, uncategorized. The tone doesn't match any native tone. Discrimination depends on how different they are acoustically. Next will be presented by Hannah.
Okay, we are going to look at the first experiment, which involved native Mandarin speakers, and the categorization task. Researchers found that when memory load was high, meaning participants had to wait longer before responding, they relied more on phonological processing. So they were more likely to match Thai tones with familiar Mandarin categories. But when load was low, participants were more sensitive to phonetic details like pitch and tone shape. Surprisingly, stimulus variability like different talker or different vowels didn't affect categorization results much. This suggests that categorization mainly relied on participants' internal tone categories, not the surface detail of the speech. Now, in the discrimination task, the results were different. Stimulus variability had a major effect. When Thai tones were spoken by different people or with different vowels, Mandarin speakers had much more difficulty telling the tones apart. This shows that discrimination depends more on phonetic cues, which can get distorted with variability. Interestingly, memorial load didn't really affect discrimination, which was different from what we'd expect based on study of consonant perception, that probably because tones last longer and are more acoustically stable than consonants. So even with time delays, people could still remember the pitch information fairly well. Next, the material will be explained by Abror.
Okay, so next, It is about the second experiment. The researchers tested Vietnamese speakers using the exact same task. What they found was the Vietnamese speakers showed different categorization patterns compared to Mandarin speakers. That makes sense. Vietnamese and Mandarin have different tone systems, so the way they hear and match Thai tone varies. Even though the design of the experiment was the same, Vietnamese listeners often categorize the Thai tones differently, which led to different discrimination performance as well. These differences match what Pam predicted for each language group. So what does this all mean? Well, the results from both experiments support the idea that tone language speakers perceive foreign tones through the lens of their native phonological system. If a Thai tone fits neatly into a familiar category, it's easy to identify, but if it doesn't, the brain either has to make a new category or might confuse it with something else. Overall, this study shows that the perceptual assimilation model, or PAM, can be extended to lexical tone perception, not just consonants and vowels. It gives us a clearer picture of how both phonological categories and phonetic details work together in cross-language understanding. So next will be presented by Z.
So to wrap up our presentation, this study offers powerful insight into how tone language speakers perceive sounds in unfamiliar language. We saw that phonological categories in our native language play a key role in shaping how we hear new tones. We, when we are under memory pressures, we rely more on abstract categories. But when the tones are spoken by different people or in different vowel contexts, known as stimulus variability, it becomes harder to rely on details phonetic cues, especially for discrimination tasks. Thank you so much for your attention. We are from group 7. Maybe that's all for us. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.